My brother killed himself when he was 15 and I was 17 in May on Mother's Day. He shot himself with a .357 Magnum in the head at his best friend's house. That summer was very difficult for me and I was searching for answers. My brother left no note. I lived in a small town in the country, and there was a woman who dabbled in the dark arts. My friend Jason and I would go to her house on the weekends and she would use tarot cards to tell our future and we would play on her Ouija board. One night we contacted a spirit on the Ouija board who referred to himself as Tommy. He told us that he had hung himself with a chain at the roadside park near our town when he was 22. Jason and I made fun of him and he became very angry with us and told us not to make fun because if we did one of us would die in a way that we most feared. We laughed it off as a joke. One night we stole one of the Ouija boards she had and took it to my house. We both cut our fingers and wrote our names on the board. Jason then broke the board over his knee and we burned it. I was always told Ouija boards would not burn, but it burned just fine. It was now the end of the summer and school was starting in about 2 weeks. Jason said we should have a big end of the year bash down at the bridge. The bridge was a place down this old dirt road us kids would get together to drink away from town. The bridge stood 20 feet over a small creek that was about waist deep. Before the party that night, Jason and I went to our favorite restaurant to eat. As we ate, the subject of how we didn't want to die came up. I said that my biggest fear was to burn to death. Jason said his was to drown. We all met at the bridge and were partying and drinking. It was really late and I was ready to go home. As I was leaving, this kid named Rick pulled up on his Honda 650 street bike and asked me if I wanted to go for a ride. I said no. When I got home I went into my room and got ready for bed. I always slept with my radio on and it was playing as I turned off the lights and laid down. As I lay in the darkness of my room, my radio began to get static and fade in and out until the point it just went quiet. At that moment I felt as if a figure was standing at the foot of my bed in the darkness. I sat up and there was something standing there. I could see a dark figure but no features. My first thought was of my brother. I said his name, Kevin, is that you? At that moment the figure left and my radio came back on. I laid down, and then fell asleep. About an hour later my phone began to ring. I answered it thinking it was Jason, but it was my other friend Rudy. Rudy was drunk, but he said I had to come pick him up right now. I didn't want to, but I finally got in my car and drove to his house. He told me to head to the bridge, but he wouldn't tell me why. When we got to the bridge there was a police car parked off the dirt road. I knew the cop, his name was Vernon. I got out of my car and walked up to Vernon asking him what was wrong. He told me that Rick and Jason had gotten on Rick's motorcycle and went down the dirt road. Jason was driving. They then began to haul us back towards the bridge. As they came to the bridge Jason lost control and they crashed into the side of the bridge and both went over the side. Rick landed on the bank, but Jason landed in the water. The water was shallow and Jason broke his neck. Vernon said that when they found Jason, he was laying under the water and one of the searchers had stepped on his body. He was paralyzed because of his broken neck and could not get out of the water. He drowned. He died of his biggest fear. I always wondered if that figure that visited me at the foot of my bed that night had been Jason saying goodbye. I don't know.